What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you here for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the world of sports, wagering, and having a good time. And, apparently the Earth decided that it was just going to burn itself to the ground because we're in the middle of a Midwest inferno here, both of us. Extreme heat warning, whatever the hell that means. All I know is it's damn hot when you step outside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't question that I guess necessary and it's hot enough to, require that. But at the same time, it's like usually when you have some type of, weather related thing, it's like, okay, well, we know what to do with this. If it's lightning, stay inside. If it's, a tornado close enough, you go down to your basement or in some cases, you just look out the window and watch it coming for you. But with heat, it's like, oh yeah, we know it's hot. Like you just got to remind us, like, what are we supposed to do here? Stay inside. Obviously, I don't think you need to be reminded of that. Go outside because I was talking to you. There's one of those time frames here where you don't have to be moving to start sweating. Just stand outside for 10, couple minutes, and you're pouring there. So not the most ideal, but I guess maybe it's on the closer to being over than starting. I think is what I'm hearing. So that's the good news. But yeah, it's been wild, man. I'm glad the baseball season's over for the younger ones and all that, not having to worry about sitting at games, because that would be a case where I'd be like, hey, we might not be going today.
Yeah, I feel a little bit for the folks here in our area. The county fair's going on this week, and they've got stuff going on today. And of course, all the animals are out there. It's like that's got to be just a disaster. Want no part of that. That's unfortunate. I think the only thing with the weather service is I think when they put labels on stuff, it helps people have that excuse. So like, we are going to cancel this. This is why.
There you go. There you go.
They're telling me I can. So
okay, all right. You talked me into it. There's a purpose. We'll get with that. To me, it's almost like you just like slapping me, throwing it in my face, be like, yeah, no, it's hot. That telling me. But yeah, you're right. Got to have somebody's got to make the call, because we know these don't like to call things off when it's
I know.
when it's other way, they go call it too soon. Sometimes you get the other side of it, things when it comes to severe weather.
Yeah, for sure. I got a little mowing gig due on Sundays, and man, I've never sweated more in my life. Not doing something like I was supposed to be sweating doing, just unbearable out there. You're talking.
Throw that shirt away. I'm down. Doesn't mean that's not even getting laundered. We're just getting rid of this one.
Yeah, like you gotta like hang stuff up to let it dry. That's a problem if you're just outside. Out of control. That's for sure. We're trying to bear through it. I'm okay with some heat, but man, it does get to a point where it's out of control, and that was today and this weekend for sure. Hopefully, like you said, we're going to be flying out of this here pretty soon and get back to a little bit more summer normalcy here in these parts. Of course, as we're talking about being hot and out of breath and out of all the fluids inside of us, we got to replenish them somehow. Beer has electrolytes, so I'm going to have some of that to get me back in order. And I'm happy to say I did track down an old friend. This is actually one of my favorite beers, and it's not. I don't think it's that highly thought of by people that all the ratings, things that you go to or whatever, because I occasionally will peek at that just to see what people think of it, or if it's something that I'm really into, I'm like, I wonder if this is people like it or not. But Goose Island makes one every year, and they turned it into like a seasonal. I think they used to have it kind of year round, but they turned it into a seasonal and started calling it summertime. It's a easy drinking Kolsch that I've always loved, and it just seems like it's hard to find sometimes in my neck of the woods. You got to go to some of the major metros and the big stores that have all kinds of variety. And I did track it down in Des Moines here yesterday. I was there for some other stuff, and popped into one of the big stores and found it. It's got a little more of that fruitier edge that you get from a Kolsch sometimes, and I really like it. It's like a super refreshing summer beer, as its name would suggest. Happy to track that down and have some here this summer. It's summertime from Goose Island, so I recommend. SJ, what are you drinking over there?
Well, last time I kind of mentioned all my adventures, so I guess I was just in a simple mode, and also just can't go wrong with this. I'm just going with the flights tonight. Nothing fancy, but nothing wrong with it either. It's always a easy pour. I know that's kind of big. Since you've been able to get your paws on it, there, it's become one of your faves too. But it's almost like the ideal freaking summer beer already, and then we're like summer times two, so we might as well get some of those nice cold. And I'm throwing a little lime in there too. We got to do that, make a little get that citrus, like you said,
Hmm.
it gets those electrolytes replenished. You get some of that, I guess a little sodium and potassium back up in your
Yeah,
system.
yep. That's the lime flights are a go-to in the summer. It's just good stuff. Um, yeah, I am utterly amazed. I guess I've already said it, but the fact how quickly it has caught on here in the region. Like I knew it would be popular, but man, they of course part of that too is like the marketing push has been pretty hard, since they've entered the market. So you've seen a lot of adverts all over the place, concerts and all that, and it's become a very popular beer. I think just because, like you said, it is such a good, just straight up light beer that tastes like beer that a lot of people try it and then they stick to it. And I'll give them credit for that. It's good stuff.
Well, I think also like a big thing is too is the price point's pretty amazing for like how good the beer is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Usually you think, because I guess it's maybe they don't view themselves as, I don't think they really like promote themselves up, but essentially it's like a craft brew company
Mm-hmm.
just because it's smaller. It's not really they're not going to make obviously they have like a few seasonals, but they stick to what, a few things and kind of have that all around. But
Yep.
I mean, that's essentially what you're getting for like the price of like, and I'm fine with these too, but like the price of just like your average domestic beer,
Mm-hmm.
but you're getting, I mean, you could probably most places you can get a 12 pack for about under $15 pretty easy. So that these days that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. I've been lucky enough to find one store here in town, and I don't know if this is just a deal they have with the company or whatnot, but there's one grocery chain where they've got the tall boy the pint 6 packs, and they're like $7. I think it's like $6.99, $7.99 somewhere in there, and it's just like that's a hell of a deal. I'm gonna take advantage of that as long as you keep that up on the board. That is for sure. The Speaking of beers, you sent this to me, and I didn't know whether to be impressed or to, maybe throw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm not sure, but if you're not familiar, of course, I'm kind of partial. I'm biased because I live in this state, but the Iowa State Fair is quite a spectacle and has just a crap ton of people that comes through it every year, especially for the population of the state. I mean, we largely think it's the best state fair in the country. Now, there's only a couple other places I think that have a legit argument that they might be just as good or have just as good as an event. One of those is Minnesota. Minnesota also is very proud of their state fair, and they've got one beer going on this year for the state fair that this might be crossing the line here. They're calling it Old Ranch Hand. It's a ranch dressing flavored cream ale, blending smooth malt with hints of buttermilk, herbs, and spices, served with a ranch salt rim. It's 5% alcohol by volume. This is Dual Citizen Brewing who has done this. As we were kind of talking beforehand, SJ, there's going to be some psychopaths that drink the crap out of this stuff at the Minnesota State Fair. But is this the right thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot like the pickle thing caught on for a while, and there's some
Yeah.
things of out of the ordinary. But this even seems like obviously it's just a one off, and they're doing it for there must be some type of I'm sure there's a time. Of course, just being at a state fair, you got funky
Yeah,
food
cookie
anyways,
stuff.
like
Yeah.
frying Oreos and whatever, even just like fried butter. I've seen. I think that's Texas that
Yeah.
does all
Yeah.
that deep frying stuff. I'm sure they do it everywhere. But yeah, this is a I mean, I don't mind ranch. It's not my favorite thing. I don't like hate it. I'm kind of just like, in 50-50 on it. Sometimes I'll have it, sometimes I won't. Depends. But uh, this it just seems a little bit too much. I don't even know if I could try it. I mean, that rim, maybe you could do it with something else. Like if you had some other kind of drink, maybe like you could talk me into that, like some
Yeah.
kind of maybe like a spicy margarita or something, like a cocktail like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
go something like that. Like I don't know,
Could see a
just
Bloody Mary thing maybe going
yeah,
on there.
but there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, I could see doing something of that nature. But man, a drink that tastes like ranch just doesn't really speak to me. And I guess the first thing I thought of was I don't know if you saw like especially like in the Omaha area, just where Runza is. A while back they did a Runza flavor like ice cream with the University of the Dairy. So I guess
Mm.
I never tried. I heard of it. That's what kind of reminded me. I was like doing some kind of funky just for that. Like I probably I mean I like Runza, but I definitely couldn't do that. Same thing here. It's like I don't mind ranch. I don't know. That might be one of those where you might want to do it on your first drink of the day because if that's several in and you've had some hearty fair foods there, you might be something might be coming up
Yeah.
with that. I just can't imagine that tasting. Even
Mm.
if you like ranch, it seems it's like when you let's say you have like a water and a Sprite next to it and you pick one up and you think it's one or the other, it
Hmm.
like throws you off. If that does that, what do you think a ranch beer is gonna
Yeah.
do? But I don't know. maybe it'll catch fire and be the hottest craze. I don't know.
we never know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I look at the picture here, and of course they've done a very nice photo shoot for this beer.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad. I
yeah, it
mean,
looks nice.
but it's like that. Is that foam or is that ranch at the top?
Yeah,
That's what I'm curious about.
that's what I'm
Is it
worried
like
about.
a little bit of a cold foam deal, but it's like with ranch instead of like.
Because the beer itself looks very light. Like it's a very light looking crisp beer. Like so maybe it's subtle enough that it's not that bad. I don't know. Anytime you're talking, when you're talking like buttermilk and beer in the same sentence, I don't know. I mean, I know we do milk stouts, and lactose is a thing that works with beer sometimes. But man, I don't know. I'm with you. I'm a ranch guy. I like a ranch, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the verdict is when folks get their hands on it there at the Minnesota State Fair. But we had to bring that up. That is definitely an interesting wrinkle or try there from those fine folks. So either that brewery is going to be a hero and make a lot of money, or they're going to suffer some bad PR.
Sign the death certificate there.
They gave it a try. We're talking about them, so at least they got that going for them. So that's what we're drinking here. We're not drinking the ranch beer. We're drinking the good stuff here as we get powered through the podcast here. There is some other stuff that's going on in the news world as far as the college football is concerned. But where we wanted to start here today, and we kind of alluded to this last week, is we're getting fairly close now to talking about the season starting here with college football, believe it or not. And we want to talk about some of the games that we're looking forward to this upcoming season. Now, I wouldn't say we're going to go as far as saying like, we did like the utmost game by game research and like these are the absolute best games I know that I'm looking forward to. It was more of a glance through the schedule. Oh, this is interesting. Or, and there's reasons maybe why some of these games are interesting beyond just the competition itself. So that's what we're going for here. We're going to look at 5 and each that we kind of think, pique our interest this year.
Yes, I mean, kind of give you just like the fan perspective, I guess, how we looked at it. Just like if you're looking down, what I want to watch today, that's maybe not, if your team has a bye or maybe you play at a different time, this is a game maybe to watch out for on paper. Of course, that's the thing when you get later in the season, you just don't really know who's going to be what. And, preseason rankings are fun for, having conversations and building up the season and kind of hyping things up. But also, it's almost a guarantee that at least several teams that are highly thought of coming into the season are going to be less than that once you get to the point where you thought maybe like, oh, this is going to be a good game here. These two teams matching up in week 6. And then at that point, it's like one's already, maybe fired a coach and the other one's out of bowl contention or something like that. So it's, that's always a thing here. But you just on paper, when you look at the schedule, this is kind of how we're thinking that this could be a game worth taking a peek at.
Yeah, for sure. We never know what's going to happen with some of these teams and some of these matchups. But I guess this is kind of the forest for the trees type of look here, just seeing what might be spicy here this upcoming season. So we're just going to kind of go back and forth here. And I'm going to start it off by totally cheating and breaking the rules because, that's what you do, right? I kind of cheated because I saw this when I was looking through and I was like, that just looks like an interesting day of watching football. And partly because the season has just started. So obviously we all anticipate that first game. I mean, everybody's looking forward to watching TCU North Carolina just because it's the first game. And, there's some story there too, of course. Will North Carolina ever be worth a crap with Belichick running the show? Will TCU get back to their former days of glory where they were in a national championship? It's an interesting game. But there's a day that weekend that I think is actually even more interesting here this opening week of college football. Of course, we have the Labor Day holiday mixed in there, so then you get some goofy days with games, and that's how they start this thing off. And Sunday, September 6th, there's 3 games on the schedule, and I think they're all kind of interesting, and I'm excited to sit and watch this. You've got the Apple Cup being played as the first game of the season between Washington State and Washington. Of course, Wazoo has new coach. Their former coach that was there for a year is in Ames, the team that I follow. But they're of course playing the former rival and big dog and team that's in a much better spot than them financially at this point. So that'll be an interesting game. Louisville takes on Ole Miss, two teams that usually have decent expectations. Of course, Ole Miss had one hell of a season last year. They've got a coaching turnover, the whole Kiffin saga we all know about. I think that's an interesting game. That's being played in Nashville too, so it makes it a little more spicy. And then Wisconsin Notre Dame, they're playing at Lambeau Field that day. That's also, of course, very interesting. Not the location's interesting. The two teams, yeah. I mean, I don't know what we expect about either of those teams. Honestly, I think Notre Dame obviously has been good since Freeman stepped on campus, but they've kind of had their ebbs and flows. Wisconsin, they've really struggled to find their footing. We thought that Fickle situation would just be like, oh, this is going to work out great, but it just hasn't come to fruition yet. So that's an interesting matchup too. I think that's just going to be a fun day of football to kind of get the season started with some, kind of off the cuff games that you wouldn't expect at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, especially that last one, that Wisconsin and Notre Dame matchup. We've seen Wisconsin kind of maybe test themselves early. They played Alabama early, and then even
Yeah.
if I'm remembering right, at Lambeau Fields where they knocked off LSU a few years back. And I can't remember how the season played out, but that's what kind of I mean. Yeah, they got. I mean, their coach's hot seat probably doesn't even define. His seat might be hotter than what it's been outside lately. Like it's just been. I mean, people were. I mean, they were surprising that he's still there. Honestly, even a lot of people thought he was going to be let go at the end of last season. Now they have a new AD, so that kind of puts the wheels in motion. But I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and I guess you got nothing to lose there type of situation, and then you're also kind of it's. I'm not saying it's easier, but it is a little bit more of a benefit when you're kind of playing these games to start the year where you have your whole kind of off season kind of focused on this. You got this big matchup, you got to be ready to play type of thing. Maybe they, I don't know, maybe it's their best day. You probably don't have a lot of injuries to deal with as you would maybe 5 or 6 weeks into the season. And who knows, maybe you can rally the troops for one day. And I mean, this is way early, but I mean, the early line's like almost 20 and a half Notre Dame's favorite by. So that to me, I'm just like, I mean, anytime we've mentioned it, we probably will as the season goes, and we see those big numbers, whether they're likely to win. I mean, of course, I'm going to pick somebody to win that game. I'll say Notre Dame too, but also that big numbers thinks like maybe it could be a little bit more difficult than maybe they're going to maybe most people would think. So, and then you also, I mean, I know you're not at home, but you're going to have it's definitely going to be a favorable crowd for Wisconsin, even though it's not their home stadium. So that does factor in as well. I mean, I know Notre Dame's not too far away, but still, I would assume it's going to be mostly Wisconsin fans in that stadium. So yeah, and I think that would be it. And Sunday night kind of get going. They'll have the NFL production crew out there on the NBC game there. So that could be a fun one to watch. And I do remember seeing that a while back. I just realized it was a Sunday night game. So that's I kind of do like that when you have the opportunity. I know Friday night's kind of a little bit more of a bit of a debate there, but when it's open, nothing else is going on. I say take those many days as you can, spread out the game so we can watch more, enjoy more, and then you also give yourself a little bit of a spotlight as long as the game kind of plays out at least okay in your favor.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think very true. It's going to be an interesting game. So that's kind of the first notch on my list here. Like I said, kind of cheated. There's really 3 games there, but that's the first date that I'm looking for.
I mean, it's so hard to choose. How can you? It's like a kid. How can you pick your favorite one?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. What's first on your list there, SJ?
So we'll go. I guess just a little less than a week later, and this is a rematch. I got a couple of rematches, I guess, from previous seasons or in recent memory. But the first one, and this to me, you wouldn't think like, oh, well, look what happened last year. But I mean, a little bit has changed, at least in what people think of it. So on September 12th, we're going to go. Oregon travels to Oklahoma State. Now, of course, again, a pretty big number here. Oregon's a big favorite, but to me, they've always kind of been a team where when they're the hunted rather than the hunter, things don't always go so well. Now, I'm not necessarily expecting them to lose, but I think we could definitely get a much better game than last year. Was it like 70-3 or something like that? It was so bad. So to me, that honestly, like, it's a little bit of maybe something Oklahoma State can play on. Be like, we got the crap kicked out of us, but they also have there's a lot of change there in Stillwater too. Like coaching players, there's a lot of transfers coming in. So that used to kind of be seen as like, oh crap, they got to rebuild and all that stuff. But now with portal and things of that sort, it's almost almost like a benefit where like, oh, we can flip the roster real quick and kind of be at least somewhat of a competitive bunch here. So maybe that happens, and also just not as dialed in as you, but I know I've heard a lot of the from the Big 12 talk of them being kind of one of those teams that people think maybe have something going on there and have something maybe can make a decent run at that conference this season. So I think it could be a little bit more interesting. I know it'll be more interesting than last year, but I do think it just I'm just kind of curious. To me, as much as people want to kind of put Oregon in that, to me they feel like a Penn State of last year. Not that they're going to fall off that far, but they're almost like, oh, Oregon's damn, they're the odds-on favorite to win the title. I mean, they could. I just don't feel confident enough with the other teams in that conference kind of being like, oh, they're the team to beat. I don't feel that way at this point, at least.
Yeah. Well, you're helping me out here because that was one that I had on my
Okay.
my list here, so I can pivot to another one
There
too.
you go. There you go.
Uh,
Well, if we're thinking alike, that means it's a good game.
yeah. I just, yeah, I mean, I just think this is interesting on so many levels because, like you said, the expectations for Oregon, like what they've started to become, what they expect of themselves, of course, annually, anyways. And then, yeah, the way it turned out last time around was just not, I mean, that was. That was about as I'm sure low as an Oklahoma State fan has felt for an awful long time, and obviously there's been change there now with the coaching staff. I mean, you're kind of at a reset totally. I mean, it's a program that we know has resources, or at least has had. Can they continue to do that? And then, when the Big 12 changed, you certainly thought right away, well, man, Oklahoma State's probably going to be one of those teams that's like, barking up the tree of winning this thing all the time. And they were on the opposite end of that last year. They were just an abysmal team. And it's not been that long ago that they've had really good players. I mean, we talked about a running back that we loved just a couple of years ago that did all kinds of great things for him. So, they're an interesting program. I've always had a kind of I don't know, an eye on them, so to speak. They've had a lot of interesting ties with Iowa State. They don't like Iowa State fans because of what we've done to them, unfortunately, in the past. But it's always been a good battle, like between those two schools in a lot of different sports. So I've always had mutual respect, and yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where they're at. I mean, have they been able to change things around? Can they make that happen in a short period like some schools can? Can they get this thing turned in the right direction? So that's a very interesting game, especially early in the season for both those programs for sure. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna skip the obvious one because, of course, I would have put Iowa State there in the week 2 on my list just because of who I am and what I follow, and for a lot of other reasons. But I mean, that game always has interest no matter what. So I don't think I need to throw that in there. I'm more interested in what happens. And of course, I was going to put one of these on there, but I think a lot of people would because you're talking about Iowa State, Penn State, Virginia Tech. Those are some of the teams I think that people, as far as what has happened, coaching, player turnover, all those types of things that people are just kind of interested. Like, what's going to happen here? What's the deal? And, of course, Iowa State was in the news for all the wrong reasons during the offseason of, like, lost your long-time, beloved coach that stayed around longer than anybody ever thought he would, and then took pretty much the whole team with him. I mean, everybody's gone. This is a totally new program. You get a new guy in that's from the outside. I mean, some people thought that there was a guy on the inside that should have got the job, and there's been argument about that. So I think there's just so much intrigue about, where Iowa State football goes from here. I mean, I know on the grand scheme of college football, like, there's lots of people that don't give a shit. Okay, fine, I get that. We say Iowa State hasn't exactly been a premier power of football for anything, and still hasn't proven a lot. But they've gotten better incrementally a long time, and can they continue that? I mean, obviously Matt Campbell deserves a ton of credit for what he was able to do in Ames, and that's the reason he got all that interest for so long to go to other places. And, can somebody like Jimmy Rogers, who's also had success everywhere he's gone, continue to do that? And I think it's going to be more interesting when we get a little bit down the road. I mean, week 1, is, of course, intriguing because, it's all new. But everybody's excited for the opener, no matter who the hell the coach is. I mean, that's always excitement. I'm not worried about that. And, of course, when you're playing other podunks, I mean, week 3, they got Bowling Green. Like, oh, excite me. Well, big deal. Don't want to watch that. I'll be there to watch it, but I'm not real excited about it. But the week after that is, I think, when the kind of the test is, because by then you don't know. Like, things could have gone bad. You could have lost a game or two, maybe at that point. If things really went sour, I don't imagine that's the case. I think maybe one. Um, the Iowa game is interesting because, of course, he's kind of thrown some shit talking in it already, and I think that's riled up the Iowa fans. But after that, a big game. The first conference game, you're hosting Utah, who has traditionally been a pretty good team. They have, of course, got a lot of their change now. They lost their longtime head coach who went to Michigan. What do? They're a program that's always been respected and had a good program. Can they continue to be that good? So they're out to prove something. Iowa State's out to prove something. I just think that game is going to be kind of the bell cow. I'm just interested to see when I walk in and sit down, like, what's the feel like? Like, even if you've lost that Iowa game, are people just still jacked and jazzed and, like, ready to be behind this new era of what it is with Iowa State football? So I think that's why that's interesting. And from the other side, Utah, it's a very interesting game for them too, for a big test early on to kind of start their rebuild as well. So that's why I'm going with that one.
You mentioned Utah's old coach, and that's I'm going to go ahead and go stay on the same day on September 12th. It looks like this could be a hell of a day there with this another couple games that I'm not that are played later in the day, but another rematch, Oklahoma and Michigan. We saw these two teams match up last year, and that was kind of when I don't know if you want to say came to light, but all Michigan's issues kind of really starts. It wasn't like it was a secret, but they're like, oh man, something's more going on there, and you got the dude in the cutoff T-shirt coaching the games. But either way, this I mean more. I mean, this is kind of more of a deal of like. I do think that Whittingham's pretty. He's proven himself. You can't really deny his coaching accolades. But man, for as much I guess money and power in the conference I think they have and all that, the alumni and all that, man, you're walking into a hell of a tough situation.
Oh, yeah.
Not only is who knows, there could be more things coming, whatever with I guess broke I guess you want to call it like sanctions or whatever the hell. Who knows? There could be more of that stuff coming or more stuff come out with them. Nothing would surprise me at this point. It's like
No.
there could be more that we don't know, but this doesn't come to light. So that part of it, and then also you got it's one of those schools where it's like the people that are funding and putting all their however much money they're putting up think that they have want to say in everything, and they're going to kind of you're not just going to have free will to kind of do what you will. It kind of reminds me of like a Texas of that sort of being too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing. So that's part of it too. But so overcoming that is like the probably you know 80 to 90% of the job, and then winning on top of it, and also just being you're in a hell of a tough situation where you got a pretty solid conference, and then you got teams that you thought used to be easy wins are now kind of have flipped their programs like in Indiana and stuff, and are making noise of their own. So yeah, we'll see. So that's kind of mostly my curiosity to see. And of course, it's only a couple weeks in, so there's no way to can't judge it off of that. I'm just kind of curious to see, I guess, your first big game situation there. You're hosting the team that even Oklahoma kind of is one of those two that I'm still same thing with Oregon, but they get a lot of preseason hype no matter what the year is.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're gonna figure it out. And thought the coach was maybe on his way out last year, and then kind of salvaged things by sneaking into the playoff. Didn't end well for them, but going to be the same type of story again this year. I think if they get off to a slow start or maybe don't look good early, it could be another thing where you're kind of playing for your coach's job to play out the string there. So there's enough storylines there, and then just I guess could be a helmet game or a uniform game, however you want to say it too. Just seeing those teams play is always kind of fun. So I think that could be an interesting one. And then I mean, I guess like I said before, it's the same day as the Oregon game, and then I don't know, I don't want to steal your thunder, but there's a couple other games that night too that should be of interest too, just with big names and rematches. So it could be a pretty wild day there on September 12th. I guess don't make any other plans. Cancel. And if anybody invites you to, I don't know who would do a wedding there, but some people do, or any kid's birthday parties. Like, sorry, we're gonna have to take a rain check on all that stuff.
Yeah. Don't head to the apple orchard or whatever that day.
Yeah.
You got to do
Or ever, but yeah.
watch some football. The I'm gonna this the next one I've got on my list. I guess is probably the most boring as far as our talk is usually concerned because we usually don't concern ourselves as much with the old SEC as other programs do, perhaps. But I think this is one interesting because there's a couple other on the schedule actually that probably are more juicy as far as the competition is concerned, even close to the time frame. But September 26th, I'm going to go here. And it's the two teams that were caught up in the crosshairs of the Lane Kiffin saga.
Oh, yeah.
Ole Miss is at Florida, and I just think this is interesting because, of course, Florida thought it was like written in stone that Lane Kiffin was coming to town and he was going to be the next head coach. Of course, Ole Miss, they of course at the time originally probably wanted him to stay. They're having great success amidst of a playoff run, and of course now they've elevated a guy that's inside the program. But both of these coaches, of course, had to answer questions about Lane Kiffin at media days, and both were pretty much like, "Well, that was shitty," like we don't like that guy. I think Ole Miss is. Shit, I'm not even remembering his guy's name. What's the guy's name now?
Golding or whatever.
Yeah, Golding. Yeah. He made a comment about, well, yeah, it's kind of like the X that everybody's always going to ask about. Like we got that hanging over our heads. So he's not wrong. And then. And then it at Florida, kind of the same response, like, yeah, that was just shitty that way that was handled. But, those teams can go out and play each other and maybe be part of the mix. I mean, I think it would be hilarious, obviously, if these two teams have this game that is more impactful than anything else that LSU plays during the rest of the season. That would certainly be for a good storyline. But just because of that, and of course, they've got a history anyways, but beyond that, I think that's an interesting game. Just to see kind of where the narrative goes. Can they get rid of that Kiffin talk and just play football?
Well, I mean, Ole Miss gets a crack at LSU the week before, so if they go out and knock them off, then they beat Florida, then they really have some bragging rights in back-to-back weeks. So yeah, I mean that's got to be. I mean, what do you think? I'm not a I don't care about these coaches. They're all a-holes down in that conference anyways. But still, it's like, what do you think they're going to say? Like, sometimes, like, it's cool because the season's coming on, but these media day things are just really become like a dog and pony show, which is just kind of unfortunate because, I mean, they used to get a little info, but I can understand why it is the way it is, not only from the, coach and player side, but also from, people want to cut their budgets and don't want to send actual reporters to cover this stuff. Well, then that's what you're going to get if you're going to send, a guy that's, a videographer to ask questions and do everything else. Well, you're going to kind of get that thing. So yeah, that's I don't know. It is what it is, as they say. This is my one, I guess, SEC related thing as well too. But it's also a non-con, so I'll give myself a little bit of an out there. It's not a total conference matchup, but the week before, another rematch. I guess I'm in the rematch mode. I just kind of want to see how they respond. But last year, I remember, Florida State knocks off Alabama. It was a week 2, and everyone's like, "Oh man, this Florida State team might have something." And then I got a new coach, and it just didn't work out well or whatever. So but just I guess the rematch of not only necessarily just like a revenge thing, but just did Florida State are they any? I mean, getting early in the season, but where are they at? I mean, because they're very kind of on that on the precipice there, if you will. I don't want to use too big of a word, but of kind of falling off and being a little bit of a forgotten type of former powerful conference or powerful school and university there. So they're kind of on the edge there. So that's kind of what I'll be watching them this season, and that'll be like even if they don't win, but just you don't get run off the field. You're competitive. You stay in the game. I think that was more of what was expected last year, and they ended up and win the damn game. So that was more of a surprise than anything. But you've got to favor Alabama, of course, but you also before, like, just with all these games, with everyone that's coming in, you never know how things are going to mesh and all that. And even, I mean, there's some pressure on the DeBoer at Alabama. I mean, I don't think he's had that bad of a season, but just what is expected of you is so freaking insane that even just making the playoffs doesn't seem to be enough. Because I mean, they had a couple games here or there, but I don't think that was like they weren't really ran off the field very often, with the exception of that Indiana game with who I mean, nobody could beat Indiana last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got that one you got to throw away. But other than that, even before that game, it was kind of like people were ready to be done with him. So that's something to watch, I think, too. An additional kind of a layer to this game here. So you got a new guy and then maybe somebody on the way out. And I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But that's just and again, teams that you're used to seeing be good play on the field is always a good thing with the non-con. So I think there could be some level of interest there in that one.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That'll be a fun game to see go down for sure. Um, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna I'm gonna pivot here because I'm not I don't want to steal your thunder. I think I got a hunch that you got this one on your list here coming up. So I'm gonna move to another one here, um, and I guess I don't want to look like the petty asshole,
Yeah.
whatever. But like, you'd be lying if like your team lost a coach to another school and you weren't half-ass interested in what happens to them.
Well, I mean, I
So,
would think you'd more want them to not do well.
well, that's the thing.
That would be more my mind.
It's hard to. I mean, I don't know. I'm towing the line here a little bit because I don't know because like I don't have any ill will about what
Right.
Matt Campbell did in Ames. Like, I mean, for all I know, like Iowa State football isn't respected at all if he doesn't show up at the door. So I can't say that. I do think that there was good progression and he was in a good spot. I think people also don't give a little bit of credit to the fact that he was in a decent spot when he came to town. It wasn't like the program was absolute trash. Like they were not great, but they were starting to be more competitive and like things had turned a little bit. So it wasn't like totally all of his doing, but he did a lot of great things. And of course they reached pinnacles that they never have reached before. So I've got love for the man for that. Obviously the way that it happened, just, and it's never going to be good, but not a lot was clean. And I think some of the things that have been said afterwards have rubbed people the wrong way, and I get that too. Like because he made a comment recently too about how like he used the word shocked that Taylor Mauser, his OC, wasn't the guy that was given the reins to be the head coach when he left. Which a lot of people feel like maybe some of those guys would have stayed around if he had gotten the job. Now, we'll never know that. I don't know the answer to that if they really would have or not. And do I think the guy did a great job like rising through the ranks as a coach? Hell yeah. I mean, he's also a great coordinator. I think he'll do probably good things where he's at now too. But to say that you expect something when it's something that's now you've chosen to be out of your control is a little bit different story. So I that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. And it's just hard to see all those guys that, and that's just the way college athletics is supposed to be. I think, we all feel attached to these guys and we all feel like, they say, oh, I love Ames. I love where I'm at. They tell you these things all year long. And then as soon as like the bag shows up at the front door with the cash, like, oh, Penn State's great. That looks like a great opportunity. This place is awesome. So yeah, there's a little bit of me that's like, I want to get kicked in the nuts a little bit, it's bring him back down to earth. So I am interested. I don't know what's going to happen there. Honestly, what I told a lot of people when they asked me afterwards is I told them I feel bad for Matt Campbell because I think he's walking into a situation that he can't win. Like he was in such a great spot before of like, expectations obviously had started to rise because he created that, but it was never like, lose 4 games and you're fired. That was never going to be the case in Ames. And now it's going to be do that. You are fired in State College. So, whatever that you chose to do that. But I think it's interesting how, this team reacts and how this coaching staff translates and, can these players just pick up and move somewhere else and have the same, have a same success rate, I guess, is going to be interesting. And mixing in those other pieces because it's not all them. There's some other guys carried over too. And then, of course, the whole dynamic of some of them from there left to go somewhere else also, just kind of a weird deal. But it seems odd to me that I'm interested in what a team that really I thought kind of stunk last year does in multiple games. But their first real test to me is that September 26th home game against Wisconsin. Like, this is an actual opponent that you've got to play that may have something. So I think that pressure is going to be there. I mean, there's no doubt about it for Campbell and that staff and those players. That first time you go out there for a big game, because that was the bugaboo for the last, staff was like when it came big game time, they didn't get it done. Now, if you lose that one early on when people probably expect you to win, might get real tough. Might get real tough real fast. So I'm interested just to see what happens. Like I said, I'm on the fence whether I'm just like an absolute root for them to fall into oblivion or actually be happy for them a little bit if they do have a little success. But it certainly is intriguing to see what happens, and I think a lot of people around the country obviously are paying attention to that too.
Well, it's obviously a lot different now because before you're like, oh, the coach, maybe some of the coaching staff left and you had to deal with that. But now you got to deal with when coaches leave, they're almost taking the whole rosters with them. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, I mean, in this case, yeah, but there's other places doing it too. It's not just, isolated to these two programs. So, I mean, of course, it just happened. So I think that's probably where it's a little bit tougher to kind of decide where you want to come out on things because before it's like, well, I mean, I don't like, the coach kind of, he did best he could do there, and he did a better opportunity. He took it, but I mean, can you say that for every single person on the roster that left the team? I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
it is, maybe it's not. So I think that probably throws a little wrench in there where you kind of feel a little bit more of a gut punch. I could kind of see how you could be, but I would be more like, and this isn't even like ill will. It's like, oh, you did good for us or whatever. But I'm always to the mindset, even with like people that have been to a team I like or a school, even like pros down to college, like. I mean, when you're with them, I mean, it's kind of just like you're with us or you're against this type of mindset. It's not it's not like I want anything bad to happen to them in life. But when it comes to that game, or if you're playing them, or if they're playing somebody else, I'm not going to be like on their side. I guess when it comes to the competition of it.
yeah,
Now, if it's ends up winning and do accolades, well, good job, congratulations. It's not going to freaking like you said, no ill will type of thing. But also, it's like you kind of got. I mean, I guess just like the nature of sports, kind of either you're with us or against us type of thing. So
yeah.
I think that's understandable, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm gonna jump over to the ACC, and oddly enough, and I guess these teams actually make sense. They've been there for a while, so that, I mean, no, it's not the SMUs or the Cals of the world or Stanfords, but we're gonna go in October. And again, this could be a little tricky, but I also think the reason I found interest in this one is it would still kind of maybe be playing out here. First off, of course, talk about Penn State. Their old coach is down there in Virginia Tech now, James Franklin. So I mean, a lot of people are saying, it's a hot spot. He could do well there, and we've seen him had success before. Of course, I don't know if he's going to have the Beamer ball, which kind of made him famous, all the special teams type of play, but he can definitely recruit. I think he's proven that, and maybe they can't. Maybe the coaching part of it was maybe lacking in some parts of the development, or maybe just not. Maybe is a little bit type of guy that can kind of we see him did at Vanderbilt. You can do something a little
Mm-hmm.
bit and under the radar, but when you're kind of the hunter or the hunted instead of the hunter, it's a little bit different. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. And then also, I haven't. I mean, when it comes to with us or against us, I don't necessarily this plays into it. But as far as not cheering for somebody, as anybody knows, Dabo Sweeney ain't in my top 5 coaches. So and even last year he saved his butt big time there. The way they ended that season because he was in trouble there, and
Mm-hmm.
credit to him that they've kind of had a good strong ending to the season, won a couple of games. Maybe people think they're going to win, so he saved his job at least for another year. But he's still kind of stuck in the old days or whatever of not kind of not keeping up with the time. So he may be kind of a if he's still there, it could be like a lame duck type of thing. We're just kind of playing it out and just waiting to see who's going to take over. But that's October 24th there, so we'll see where those teams are at then. But I think that'd be enough of a at least for his first season, kind of make a judgment on how Franklin did in year one, or at least you'll know like, oh, is he kind of have something going, or is he a little bit more work to do there? So
Mm-hmm.
you're about only got a few weeks left in the season at that point, so or I guess about a month. But either way, there'd be enough you know data there to be like, oh, he's having a good season, or this is a tougher job than we thought, type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Like I said, that is also one of those situations where it was hard to, I think, really be fully on one side of the fence or the other because, I think the criticism in Happy Valley was valid. I mean, we talked about it multiple times when they came upon a big game. We're like, can you really win this one? Probably not. So we'd pick against him. But at the same time, like, what should the expectation of success be at a place like that or anywhere for that matter? I mean, if you're winning 10 games a year, shouldn't you be kind of okay with that? Like, I mean, yeah, you want to win the big one, but, You'd think if you're winning at that clip, you're going to do it eventually. I don't know. It's a very precarious situation there. So I kind of understand why they made a change, but at the same time, like it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as it made it out to be. So yeah, can he go to another place that in the past has been a great school and just a tough out, for whoever played them? They've kind of fallen on their hard times. Yeah, can he bring them back to where they were once before? That's going to be interesting for sure. And yeah, Clemson's on the other side. I mean, that's that at that point it could once again be a very, very hot seat for old Warren Christopher if they haven't done good to that point. So that's a fun matchup later in the season for sure. The other one I had on my list here. And I had to throw in somebody that I thought was going to have a pretty good season here from the Big 12 conference. And this is a very interesting game later in the season, too. This is October 17th. And again, a team that I guess the opponent is one that I typically wouldn't try to watch a lot of their games. Just kind of get annoyed with them. But BYU takes on Notre Dame on October 17th. And I think both teams could be very good this year. BYU, I expect to be, to me, they're the odds-on favorite to win the Big 12 this year. Certainly have a lot of expectations coming back. Bachmeier back at quarterback with a couple years experience. They're always just been kind of a tough, hard-nosed team. They've got a couple of pieces to replace that they lost that were good, but I think they're going to be a solid team. And of course, you've got the intrigue involved there too, with their coach was highly courted to take some other jobs. Thought that he was going to end up maybe in Happy Valley, and that didn't happen. Decided to stay. This is one of those proving ground games. Hey, I made the right decision. I'm here in the good place to I can beat the big dogs too. When I'm taking on a power like Notre Dame, and for Notre Dame, it's a good test. So I think this is just an interesting game to see kind of how it plays out, both competition, and then you've got that little wrinkle with the coaches as well for that one.
Well, I guess I'll go do a Notre Dame one as well. I didn't know we had it on our list both. So, 2 weeks later, Miami comes to South Bend. So I think that could be interesting as far as how these teams have played this last year, and then even both making playoff runs and kind of on the same trajectory there, where they had decades of ineptitude, and all of a sudden they're back. I guess NIL that can pay off in some ways. So, that I just think just got enough history there. I don't. They're both littered with convicts. So I don't know where that name ever came about. Just being Catholic doesn't absolve you of conviction. So as we've seen. So, but either way, I just think it could be, especially when you get to that point of the season. That's mostly what caught me up right there. Was November 7th. That's a hell of a time to play this game. I think last year they played the end of August, somewhere around there. So, I guess that's more of like the intrigue there, because you're both these teams probably or ambitions of being back in the playoff again this season, and this could hold some weight here one way or the other. If you end up getting blown out, or you have a big win, or even a close win or a close loss doesn't necessarily hurt you, or maybe can benefit you. So I think that could be, and they got Navy in between there, but BYU, Navy, Miami, that's a little bit of a stretch there for Notre Dame there. But they do it to themselves. They don't want to be in a conference, so that's what you get.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and that'll be especially depending on where Notre Dame sits at that point too. I think will make that very intriguing, because I think a lot of us believe that Miami should probably be back in the mix of things there again. Of course, they've got an interesting scenario with a quarterback that they gave a lot of money to that's bounced around to a couple of different schools. So will that work out too? That is an intriguing game for sure. I do want to give an honorable mention here, and maybe you avoided this because you didn't want to throw your bias into the mix here, SJ. But I put this on my list because I think this is intriguing. Not because I have an attachment to either team, I guess, but Indiana came out of nowhere and was like we all we all are guilty. I think most of us that follow college football were guilty of like, well, when are they going to stumble? When are they going to lose? When are they going to fall off? And they had one hell of a season, put together one hell of a team. It's hard to argue what Kurt Cignetti has done there, but now they've got to go back to the well, and can they draw it back up again? You've got a lot of guys that you lost, including a quarterback that was number one pick in the draft. So a lot of work to do there. And when I was out of intrigue, I was like, I got to pull up their schedule, see what they get, see what Indiana's got going on this year. And honestly, the first intriguing game for them is on the road at Nebraska. They've got to go to Lincoln fairly early-ish in the season, October 10th. But to me, looking at the games like that's the first one that's the real like proving ground test. They've got one the next week that you could very well say will be an intriguing one too, depending on how the week before goes with Ohio State. But going on the road at Nebraska is not easy for anybody, just because it is a great atmosphere, and we don't know, I think, also what we're going to get out of Nebraska. There's a lot of question marks there. Like, what kind of team are they going to be? The turnover there at the quarterback position for them too. Getting down the road a little bit further with their coach. I think it's an intriguing game. They're kind of the early-ish on in the season, SJ.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree on that one, and kind of this kind of in the laying in the weeds mode there, and not don't want to bulk boost it up too much, but I could definitely see that, and I do think even not even just from the Nebraska viewpoint, but if other teams in the conference, if some. Eventually it's going to happen. Who knows when, and might not be this year, maybe next year or year after, or maybe, this year. But whenever those wheels do fall off, because I mean, it happens to every team with the exception of like maybe 5 teams in the country. You're going to have you're going to take your lumps. I mean, look what they did to Alabama. Like Alabama probably never thought that they would get freaking embarrassed like that in the Rose or in the college football playoff. I think it's at the Rose Bowl if I remember right. But either way, it doesn't really matter where it was. You got the crap kicked out of you in front of a freaking national audience. So yeah, I mean, it happens to everybody. So I mean, just with the brashness of that coach and how they've kind of been whenever it does happen, people are gonna relish the opportunity to run it up on you as well. So I mean, just know that day's coming, and eventually it's gonna happen. But yeah, I do think it's maybe a good spot there. You're at home, and maybe you get a later in the day kick, get everybody lathered up and stuff. But yeah, and I also think it'd be a type of thing where they got to have some level of I mean, obviously they do, but even maybe some elevated confidence of kind of being like overlooking people at this point, because now you're the defending champion there. So that could play into things as well. I mean, you look at whatever these analytics are, it's like an 80% chance of Indiana to win it by whatever data that's used. So maybe you get a thing there where they think it's going to be walk in the park type of day, and you catch them off guard, and who knows, maybe they have a better roster than people think, because like you said, you mentioned the quarterback, but even got a new defensive coordinator. There's a lot of transfers coming in on that side of the ball too, and a whole new offensive line, with the exception of a couple guys there that are I guess from Jeep Wade kind of getting his system there, and from Georgia Tech, who's kind of been a powerhouse running team. So there's questions. I mean, doesn't mean that's going to be good, but there's also doesn't mean it's going to be bad. So you got to look at it both sides of the coin. But yeah, that's an interesting one, and then I guess we'll probably go through our team schedules, but that's one that sticks out to me. Even that I guess if I give one that I kind of would circle as a game that I'm looking forward to on Nebraska's schedule, would be that Halloween game against Washington. They've kind of been, I don't know, the darlings of I guess when you talk about media hype and stuff, people want to pick. They're like, "Oh, this is going to be Washington's year," and then ends up not. But the quarterback is amazing. Will, I mean, you can't deny that dude's got he can play. So you always got to whenever you have a quarterback, things can fall into place. But that would be I think that may be one of those games like the USC last year where they did like a blackout type of thing. I mean, it's nothing official, but seems like it's setting up that way. So that could be a good atmosphere and a kind of a fun night game if they get it at after dark kickoff.
Yeah. So some good stuff. Kind of a few things that we're peeking at here. Like we said, not necessarily like the absolute best games of the year, but just some things that are interesting for a lot of reasons as we get ready for the college football season. A couple of quick other mentions here as well. There's been a lot of controversy I have seen through the Twitter sphere, and probably other locations as well. I'm not a big Discord or Reddit guy. I do a little perusing there, but I'm sure there's all kinds of conversations everywhere about this college football 27 toughest places to play. Very, very disputed on what this top 10 list is. I'm with the people that are disputing it, because there's a couple I look at and like, well, really? Like that's what we're going with here. And of course I think I've seen some lists, if I'm not wrong, like they've done conference by conference types of things too, where they're, ranking how it comes out in the game, like what places are the toughest supposedly. All of that, of course, is relative to the year, your success, your fans. Like it's all.
Well, what game? Like, are you going to someone's stadium when they're playing against, UTEP, and comparing it against when they have like the biggest, your biggest conference game of the season, or like a, even like a playoff home game. So yeah, that's I guess it's just kind of I always like typically I'm with you. Like, I don't agree with much of the rankings, but it's just like I always just like wondering, like, can you at least give us the whatever type of I don't know, what do you want to call it, bullet points or whatever type of data that you use to kind of come to this conclusion. That's what I guess my question is. Just I don't know. That was more of like when you see it, that's what I think of. I'm like, well, who's making this call, and what's involved in deciding it? Because some of these places I've been to, and I'm like, even like, I mean, I'm sure it's fine other games, but man, the one time I went to like freaking Wisconsin, the Camp Randall, like I was not impressed at all. Even like Michigan, and sometimes it's like these stadiums are like big, but that doesn't always make like a good atmosphere. Like Oregon, I'll give them credit. I've heard from enough people to be like, it's not huge, but it's like pretty raucous.
Yeah,
like they have a pretty good crowd there. And I don't know, I haven't been to that one, but there's some of the ones where I'm like, I guess I'm not buying it when it comes to, but I mean, it's probably one of those things that is used, to build to talk about the game, and also just like people are sports talk is still kind of a thing. You get in July and you're like, what can we talk about? Oh, this rankings came out, your stadium sucks. Then call in and tell us why it doesn't. Because you've been and especially now, like every across the country, you can't barely fill these stadiums for on a week in week out basis. Just because of we talk about we'll do it this season. I'm sure of like not the match of just how hard it is to get the games, but the price. And then everything that goes in it, where maybe you're not getting you don't get a quality game or something, or whatever. Maybe it just doesn't work out, or you just can't afford it. That too. So, it's I guess, but yeah, you look at some of these teams, you're like, I maybe somebody that there's got to be like alums that work at EA Sports that went to these schools. For some of them, that's all I can think of.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know. I guess they touch a rock, but I just don't think of Clemson as like a raucous stadium, unless it's like a huge game or something. I don't know. And some of these are just big, like Kyle Field. That's huge. Of course, you put 100,000, whatever. Like I don't know. Yeah, I've seen teams walk into Florida recently and just beat the shit out of them. So that's such a great. I don't know. I would think like your home record has to factor in too.
Yeah, to me that should be the biggest part of it, honestly. Yeah. Like, what's your record? Like, are you losing games at home? Because then it tells me that it is a really hard place to win because nobody else is doing it. Yeah, and I think you're right. A lot of them that I saw on that list was like, okay, it holds 100-some thousand plus people, so you think it's great. Like, yes, it on one hand, it's like, okay, yes, is it a place that a lot of people would just like to experience because of what it is? Yeah. Probably as a check mark. Like for me, Michigan Stadium, that would be one of them. Like, yeah, big house. I want to go see a game there. That'd be cool. But also, it's just a giant ass bowl with a bunch of people, and it probably isn't that great of a atmosphere as far as like on the field how you feel about it. Like, there's places just, and a lot of it sometimes it just has to do with engineering, like acoustically. Like, a lot of people could be loud. Like, hell, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City has the record for the loudest stadium on the planet, and it holds like 76,000 people. So, what are we arguing about here? I guess.
I guess once I saw Indiana at number 17, I knew this was just unserious. Not that their team was obviously the best team in the country, but no one's concerned about playing at that stadium.
No.
Like, yeah. So and even
until you consistently have sold the thing out and you win all the time, like
there's not a freaking you know, more than you can always tell when you do these stadiums where they sit the visiting fans.
Yep.
If that bleeds halfway across, the next section, or even
Yeah.
looks like there's more of a different color than yours, then you can't even be on this list. I mean, even like a Utah, it's like not that their team hasn't been good, but I don't think anybody's like, oh man, that's so. There's obviously debate here, but it was always curious of how you get to. And in Florida State even being on here, we just talked about their troubles they've had. It's just or South Carolina. I don't. It's almost like you just went off capacity. But then even then, I'm like, well, then how's Indiana getting there? Because they can't be much more than in the 50s.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I don't know what it is, honestly, but
Yeah,
I'd have to look that up. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, like you said, probably a lot of it's just like, oh, we're just going to throw a list out there and let people bitch
yeah.
and argue about it, which may have very well have been true. But yeah, I mean, give us a little something here. What goes into this ranking system, and maybe let's have somebody do the actual research and put it together and make a one that we can argue about for certain reasons.
I know he's not. I don't necessarily. I don't even know his name, but I know there's a guy that goes to like every state. It's like his goal to go to like every stadium in the Division 1 of football, and he doesn't always go to games though. I've just seen people pass around his clips, but I know it's like he just kind of gives you like basically like a tour, but it helps if you go on game days too because it's like, well, is it what is it? Could be
Yeah.
like a big. Could be look like pretty I guess not so inviting when it's empty, but maybe the game there. But I know there's like some like to me that's a little bit more of gives you a little bit better of an idea stuff like so. That's when I guess I'm not a big fan of the YouTube, but that's when it comes in handy is when
Yeah.
stuff like that because it's like you want to kind of get the experience. Because I mean, God, heck, can you imagine that'd be a hell of a. I mean, if we can get that gig, sign up tomorrow. Just going to
Mm-hmm.
Game Day Stadium and get paid for it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but just not able to do it. So, but yeah, there's plenty. Who knows? Maybe and down the road when we get a little older, maybe that'll be our instead of golfing, I'll just go to freaking games at
There
places.
you
That
go.
sounds like a better idea.
Yeah, I like that. I like that plan. Yeah, we'll give you some legitimate rankings here based off of
Oh, and some of those
facts.
golf if the greens fees, you might be able to go to games for cheaper than that,
Wow,
anyways.
no shit. That's not wrong either. It's all of life's fun things are getting out of control. It's a problem. All right, yeah. So that's a fun debate topic. We'll probably dive into that more as the season moves along too a little bit
Maybe
here.
we'll give ours and say only
Yeah,
places we've been to, and we'll just
yeah,
could be pro, college, anything.
yeah, yeah.
That's throw arenas in there too, just
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
like because I mean to me it'd be like it's got to have like obviously you got to have a good you got to have some good noise level there, a little bit of volume, but also it's like I would factor in like access, like what you have in the arena or close to the arena, like that type of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's there like places to get food and drink and stuff after. How good is the parking? Like that to me. I mean, obviously that doesn't like toughest place to play, but just as far as like places I want to go, I guess that's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of convenience factors for sure. Yeah. So yeah, we'll maybe dive into that here as the season moves along. Plenty of other stuff that we'll be bringing up here in the near future. So be hanging with us. Of course, we're going to get into some more of the, as we mentioned, kind of the prognostication stuff here, and especially, of course, do our team predictions as we did last year, which I do have to say, last year we did pretty damn good on that front. So we'll see if we can repeat that. I think it's going to be a lot harder for both of us this year, but we'll find out how that goes. And then, it won't be long before we're starting to make plays for you as well. It's like, here's a good idea to put some coin on and maybe make a good turnaround here. And of course, we can also talk about, a little bit of futures right before we get to the season too, as far as some of those win totals are concerned. So be looking for that. If you have anything else you want us to touch on, or you have some interesting things that have come up in your neck of the woods, let us know. You can hit us up on Twitter. At Cherokee CP, at SGM Bets. Those are our handles there. We'll always be open to responding to you in whatever fashion there. So for sure, even if we're not super active on our own at the time, we'll always engage with you. I'll keep tabs on that. And then on the podcast, we'd love it if you would like, subscribe, share all the major places that you can listen to podcasts. You'll find us. If you can't, let us know. We'll make sure that's corrected, and make sure that you like and subscribe to the show so you always know when a new one's out. And then same thing for the YouTube channel. Of course, that'll get much more active here as we get into the college football season with some prediction little clips for you. So like, subscribe, get the notifications on that YouTube channel as well. That's going to wind it down here for us this week. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another round of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.